At 12, I swore the oath, leaving home and family. At 16, I saw my master die. I took up his shield and his name, and on that day, I became a crusader. Armored by faith, driven by duty, bound to kill the enemies of Zakharum. Sworn to live as a crusader and to die as one. Now, corruption returns to the hearts of men. I see it in the eyes of the mad, hear it in the howling of the damned. A falling star in the west leads me to the town of New Tristram. The crusade calls me, and so I go.
This is the story of the Fallen Star and the quest's original appearance in Diablo III. We first arrive on our journey on the outskirts of New Tristram. As we step off the dilapidated bridge, we're first met with a dark and foreboding land. Moving forward to survey the town, we see a broken sign to New Tristram, and we mutter to ourselves,
"The Fallen Star is close, but there is death here too."
Making our way east, following the path to the village, we get our first ominous sign of trouble. Some carrion birds are picking at a poor woman's corpse, flayed out in a pool of gore. The body is rotted away and her valuables are still in place, as we see 2 coin purses untouched. We then can deduce this was not the work of highway bandits. As then we see the first of the undead now risen, feasting on a poor couple next to their overturned wagon. The undead barely notice us, shambling around as if confused before we end its miserable existence. However, it is not alone. As we continue further along the path, we're greeted by a terrible sight. More corpses re-risen and feasting on flesh. They, however, are less welcoming to trespassers. Though their assault barely scratched our shield, we realize quickly, seeing the bodies ahead, that what they lack in vigor, they more than make up for in sheer numbers. It's then we happen upon the gates of New Tristram. Corpses strewn about as a guard captain and his men fend off the dead with flame, bow, and steel. Approaching the captain, he says,
"Greetings. I am a crusader of the Zakharum faith, and I saw a star falling on this town."
It fell on the old cathedral. There was only one survivor, Leah. You should speak with her.
"Captain Rumford, more dead are coming."
We can't open the gates until we drive them back.
Before Rumford could finish his thought, the dead rise anew as a gaggle awaken in a pack of fallen dead littered about. With the guards' help, we fight them off as they claw at us hungrily, yet ultimately make short work of them. To which Rumford remarks,
Yeah! I've never seen anyone fight like that before. Guards, open the gates! You'll find Leah at the Slaughtered Calf Inn.
So this Leah is our best bet. As the only survivor of the Fallen Star, we best head to the Slaughtered Calf Inn as Rumford guides. Heading west through the gates and stowing our weapons, we see a militiaman burning corpses, and one of his brothers in arms says,
"Burn those corpses before they rise again."
We approach the militiaman next to the wagon and he explains,
"The dead have been a bane on our existence since that cursed fire fell. We have to burn them, just to make sure they don't rise from the grave."
Makes sense why the guards were dousing the bodies. As we head into town, we see someone who has been performing autopsies in a questionably hygienic makeshift medical center. A scholar and onlooker then remarks,
"I came here to study the fall of old Tristram. This is closer to the town's history than I want to be."
Understandable. I don't think the dead bear much insight. We then see the town healer, clearly alarmed by the happenings, and he says,
"Zakharum has fallen to disgrace. What faith can save us now? It is the end of the world. Can't you see that?"
Zakharum will be restored, friend.
We assure him we will bring the Zakharum back to its former glory before heading south into the town center, which has a large waypoint in the middle and a militiaman clearly shaken up by the happenings.
I promised Marco I'd protect him, and now he's dead.
Standing next to him is a blacksmith, Adria, who shares,
"Nothing ever seems to change in New Tristram, does it?
What do you mean?
There's always some threat of the risen dead or foul evil descending on the town, isn't there?"
It certainly seems like we have our work cut out for us. It's amazing that anyone is left in this town. As if hearing our thoughts, we cross paths with the town mayor, standing in the northwest corner with a cart of belongings which is very much overpacked, and he scoffs as he sees us, saying,
Please move your cart.
How dare you speak to me like that? I am the mayor of this town.
Lord Mayor, please move your cart.
Are you mad? This town is doomed. Anyone with a grain of sense should be trying to get out. Will you help me or not?
Fleeing will not save your life, and certainly not your town.
Poor wretches never had a chance. Even the mayor has abandoned them. With our grim assessment complete, we head inside into the Slaughtered Calf Inn a few feet away. As we enter the inn, we see a villager by the south wall who informs us.
Tristram used to be such a wonderful place to live. My family has been here since the town grew out of the ruins of old Tristram. But now, it's horrible. The loved ones we've buried and grieved over now threaten our lives.
There's seldom anything worse than a family member's passing, except for the ghoulish reality of having to burn their zombified corpses with fire, lest they take a sweet chunk out of your own flesh. As we head into the main bar area, we see many of the infirmed scattered about. The duo of ladies loitering next to them say,
I don't care what anyone says. That thing that fell from the sky was no rock. A rock doesn't cause the dead to leave their graves.
Have you come to help us? The other adventurers who came through here didn't look so deadly.
Though we appreciate their confidence, this is still quite a mystery. It's then we see a young girl, brown hair looking shy of making it past 16 winters. This must be Leah, and though her innocence seems to belie an aged experience about her. Bow on back and standing confident compared to the rest of the townsfolk, we approach her and she says,
Are you Leah? They tell me you survived the falling star.
I did, but it blasted my uncle Deckard Cain into the depths of the old cathedral. I tried to search for him, but the dead were already rising. I came back here to rally the militia, but Watch out! The wounded are turning!
Before she can finish her thought, the dead rise up. Forced to slaughter the villagers in front of their kin, we begin our unenviable task with precision and Leah's aid. Using our shield to bash down the last, the tavern now left to be caked in gore, the barkeep then remarks.
This is killing business.
It's then we see Leah again for a further update.
The dead will overwhelm us all, unless something is done.
Something like putting the dead back to sleep? I can do that.
Thank you. You should speak with Captain Rumford at the gate. He can tell you what to do.
It seems back to Rumford we go. First, we take a look around for more undead, and as we gingerly step over two skeletons we gifted to the floor, we stop momentarily to admire the fabled slaughter calf. No doubt what the inn was named after. Ugh, if that's the calf, I'd hate to see a fully grown one. With Leah's permission, we head downstairs to see her room, and although standard fare by all accounts, we see her journal for insight of what's happened.
We've been under siege for 6 days now. Uncle Deckard is still missing. Captain Rumford and the others are losing hope. I tell them not to lose faith, but if help doesn't arrive soon...
16 militiamen went out. Only Rumford came back. How could that help us?
We never should have built on this cursed ground. Maybe Cain was right. Even in death, Diablo torments us.
We then see Leah's uncle Cain's door is now open, and we look inside his home for clues to his disappearance and spy his journal in his room, which appears to be a font of knowledge on the burning hells, and so we decide it will be invaluable in our cause until we find him.
We have come at last to Tristram's old cathedral. This is where Diablo, Lord of Terror, first corrupted mankind. This is where I may finally find the answers I seek. Leah worries after my safety, but I believe information vital to defeating the last lords of the burning hells can be found here.
Heading back out the gate once more, we see Captain Rumford, who says,
I've come to help. How do we stop these risen dead?
I admire your courage, but Captain Dalton and the militia were slaughtered by those things. Only I survived.
Have faith, Captain. Have faith.
Well, I have seen you fight. Strike at the wretched mothers and their queen. They're the ones vomiting out these horrors.
They're attacking the barricades!
Assuring the captain, we then fight off a pack of undead attacking the barricade. As they break through, we single out the wretched mothers, said to spew out more undead in an unholy stream of vile vomit.
There, that's one of the wretched mothers. There are more of them in the ruins down the road.
With the deed done, we put on our tunic, found off the dead, and head north to hunt down the wretched queens and quell their numbers. And are then confronted by the undead lingering in droves. They seem somewhat aimless as they amble about, mostly focused on their fleshy, fresh meal. As we head to purge more near a caravan, there's a burning militia man. Checking Cain's journal, we find more lore about these foul fiends, and he says,
I will never forget the first time I saw these horrors shambling out of the misty woods. Our loved ones, buried long ago, rose from their graves and began to attack the living. However, the risen dead were only the beginning.
After downing 3 of the matriarch undead, we say to ourselves,
that should slow the attacks.
Now with the numbers thinned out, we head east through a broken gate into the ruins of Old Tristram.
Old Tristram? Diablo himself was here.
As we head inside, we see packs of ambling undead. But why are they drawn to this town of all places? The town itself is crumbling in a shell of its quote-unquote former glory. If Tristram in Diablo 1 was already a shell of its former glory, then this is a shell of a shell. A decrepit ghost town in shambles. As we cross past Cain's old well in the center of town, which is guarded by some very girthy undead. We see his broken cage from Diablo 2. It's then we spy Griswold the blacksmith's armor rack, and it may still hold a hidden treasure. However, as we go to loot it, there's only low quality items. Bandits must have happened through here a long time ago. It's then the wretched queen herself appears and spews her rotten attacks at us. As she brings forth more zombies, we stalk her down and battle through her minions to send her back to the abyss as she tries to flee from the town and save her wretched hide. However, we're no more wiser about the fallen star's part in all of this, and so we see a handy waypoint near a gate and teleport back to New Tristram that honestly stands in an okay state compared to the old Tristram town, and speak to Leah next to Captain Rumford, who shares.
For a long time, Uncle Deckard avoided coming back to this place. There were a lot of ghosts here for him. This is where Diablo drove old King Leoric mad and terrorized the people. I don't know what really happened here, but whatever it was horrible. Nearly everyone who survived went mad. I've never heard of the Crusaders.
We serve the Zakarum faith. We're from the east and only recently came to these lands. Some of us did, at least.
Well, I hope you're not planning to convert these people by the sword.
I'm not here to convert anyone. My crusade is to find a way to cleanse the corruption that infests my faith. When that evil is destroyed, the Zakarum will be restored, and people can choose to believe in it or not, as they please.
Captain Rumford then says,
Thank you for your help, but could you talk some sense into Leah? She won't give up on the idea of rescuing her uncle.
She's brave. With help, she may yet save Cain.
And with that, we've aided the town and the fallen star quest is complete. But we should see Leah about her missing uncle. However, that's a story for another day. After aiding the townsfolk of New Tristram to clear out the wretched undead from the ruins of Old Tristram, it's then that Captain Rumford points us towards young Leah, Cain's ward, who asks us to aid her in finding her uncle, saying,
Leah, let's find your uncle.
We'll need to open the cathedral first. The guards locked it up before they were ambushed. Rumford told me they fought their way back to Adria's hut. The key must still be there.
First, we find out the cathedral is where the fallen star lay and created an undead blight on the land. Now we know that the guards were pushed out of the cathedral and lost the key to it in Adria's hut. None of this bodes well for us or the people of Tristram, and we talk to Captain Rumford for information before we head off, who admits,
"When Leah told us the dead were pouring out of the cathedral, we quickly went to put an end to it. At first it seemed we were succeeding, but they just kept coming. We were overcome. Captain Dalton and the men fought valiantly. They protected me. I am no soldier. I was a farmer. I should not have been out there with them. I do not know how I made it back here. None of the others did. And now, somehow, I'm supposed to lead the militia."
So, Captain Dalton sacrificed himself so Rumford could live, and Rumford is but a farmer, thrust into duty. Dark tidings indeed. We could kind of tell he wasn't up for the job. We ask Rumford more about himself and he replies,
"I volunteered to help because it seemed the right thing to do, but I'm no leader of men."
You were called and you answered.
That's a simple thing for you to say. You were born to fight monsters like the risen dead. Me? I'm
Although
just a
Rumford
farmer.
never sought this life out, fate seems to have thrust him into his newly appointed position. Let's just hope he fares better than Dalton. And with that, we head back through the waypoint to Old Tristram with Leah in tow to help us unlock the gate, previously barring our path.
Here, let me open the gate.
With the gate open, we see a militiaman's corpse who had previously been gnawed at by rats. The undead, no doubt, looking to do the same. And so we step into the dark woods in search of Adria's shack.
Adria was my mother, but I don't know much about her. She died when I was very young. I was raised by Uncle Deckard.
And your father?
I'm told he was a great warrior who was lost when Tristram fell to the demons.
After contending with a pack of rotted risen, we see more villagers left to rot or scattered about, their homes in shambles. These zombies move like a plague through the lands. Heading east, we cross a small stream via bridge and see a shack that, unlike the others, still stands. This must be Adria's. As we tepidly step inside, we see dead militiamen Rumford spoke of, and Leah abruptly says,
"Look, a hidden cellar. Follow me."
We call out to her, but she darts off out of our care and headlong down into the cellar. We momentarily take inventory of the shack. The east door seems barred. Potions, scrolls, and books are littered about, but there is no ambush we can see. And so we follow Leah below.
There are dark secrets here.
People said she was a witch, but I never believed it.
Inside the cellar, we see grains and other supplies, various knickknacks, nothing of note. Yet, when we enter into the larger open area, we see a cauldron still somehow bubbling away. Rats scuttle out at our presence, and we know we're not alone. As we move to the cauldron and see what its contents are, it falls to the ground like a trap sprung. It's there we see the undead corpse of Captain Dalton himself, and presumably his guards, now guarding the cavern in undeath. We move quickly to kill his feeble minions, blinding them as Dalton paws at us. Dalton, being more powerful than his brethren, summons cold, icy barbs on the ground as we realize too late and are frozen on the spot, helpless as Leah attempts to contend with him. Thawing in the nick of time, we move in to slash at the guard captain. However, he also attempts the same icy trick. This time we're ahead of him and sidestep his attack before showing him the flat side of our shield to his withered head. His captain's helmet, partially rotted, doesn't save his face from being caved in, or what's left of it. Regaining our composure, we go to speak to Leah, who is searching her mother's belongings, and she says,
"Here's the key, and my mother's journal. What I've seen of it is disturbing. I want to know more about her, but that can wait. We need to save Uncle Deckard first."
I will go. Stay here and learn what you can.
Thank you.
And so now we have a key to the cathedral and head off before taking a cursory glance at Adria's journal for further clues, and it reveals.
Aiden came to me last night. I suspected what was lurking within his troubled heart. I consoled him as best I could. Regardless, wherever he's headed, hell will surely follow in his wake. The shadows close in on Tristram once again, but like Aiden, I'll be gone before they fall.
Adria spoke of the legendary warrior Aiden, the son of Leoric, who felled Diablo and was turned himself into the cursed beast for his efforts. Strange that this was written after he had slayed the Lord of Terror, and Adria seemed to have the foresight to have escaped. As we head topside, the previously barred door to the east side of the shack explodes open, and we're forced to contend with a gaggle of undead. Adria's hut is so cramped, we cleave her table in twine in the commotion. Heading outside, we're greeted by more dead militia who never made it inside. It looks as if their brothers must have been forced to barricade the door, poor souls. As we make our way northwest over an old rickety bridge, we see Old Tristram Road. Cutting a path through the undead, their kin lie in wait, with hanging townsmen as trophies dangling off the limbs of dead branches of an old rotted out tree. We're starting to sense a theme here. As we head north up the path, an undead trio feast upon a poor deceased villager, barring the entrance to the cathedral. As we put them down, we swear to the villager his death will be avenged, as more ghoulish guards lunge at us. After which, we check the front of the cathedral and see it's open.
Tristram Cathedral. The fallen star lies within.
Moving to the east side, we also see a blocked gate with a chest on the other side and no way around. The west also, unfortunately, holds little else. We're then forced to move through the front entrance without any element of surprise and confront whatever is on the other side. As we enter, we see the pews literally thrust aside, as the star had tore through the very center and a strange glowing crater where it must lay. After killing the shambling re-risen, we carefully drop down the floor below of the cathedral. There we see a glorious painting of a man, hand outstretched, reaching to the heavens. No expense seems to have been spared in this cathedral that stretches out in scope beyond imagination, yet feels more like a crypt. We avert our gaze to the bluish hole formed by the star and move towards it, saying,
"The star is close."
As we head south, we see a pack of undead in a familiar scene, feasting on another poor wreck of a villager. This time, however, we use the chandelier above to smash down atop them before felling the foes. The design of this place is magnificent, to say the least, and although somewhat macabre, we marvel at the glaring gargoyles and various gothic statues therein. It's then we are faced with carrion bats and kill the winged interlopers who seem to be electrically charged. We are then reminded of a passage in Cain's journal about the bats that said,
"Some foul new disease has taken hold in this land, and the carrion bats are near the heart of it. Since returning to Tristram, I have seen their numbers surge. The evil forces that linger here give them strength, and I fear that the worst is yet to come."
It's then we're faced with a grotesque demon. Stitched together, this rotund abomination moves with unnerving speed. As we move in to fell it, so too, almost supernaturally, the carrion bats move in, as if hearing Cain's words. The grotesque, when killed, explodes in a vile plume of eel-like slippery creatures that happen to be gut worms living inside its disgusting torso. The only saving grace of the ordeal is, facing the final bat, it drops a helm and we may have ample protection from the smell of any future grotesques. In the platform above, we find a scribe's lectern. Curious, we move to read it, and it reveals a scroll of a man named Lachdannen from legend itself.
"My name is Lachdannen, and I am cursed. Once the captain of King Leoric's army, I left only to honor my land and my king. No man has a greater love for his king than I had for mine, even as I drove my blade through his dark and corrupted heart."
The mad Leoric was slain by Lachdannen, his trusted knight, who in our Diablo 1 series, we face not only Leoric the Skeleton King, which is linked below, and also there's a video on us finding the cursed Lakdanan near the bowels of hell itself. After more searching, we also find a second scroll of Lakdanan's personal account of the events, and it reads,
It was Lazarus. Of that I am certain. He alone had the king's ear, and whispered dark and evil magics into it, instilling the notion of an imminent attack by Westmarch. Afraid to speak against the Archbishop, the councillors nodded their empty heads in agreement, and sent us off to die.
Lazarus, a legendary name that stands by most. After hours of fighting our way through the crypt-like cathedral, we find more undead kinsmen, but also undead split down the middle, and it looks like a battle took place here. With hope for Cain still remaining alive fading, we move to the door that leads us below to Leoric's personal passage and see Cain running for his life near the ledge of the crater.
Foul minions, stay back! Back! May this ledge hold. The Skeleton King.
Gods, bring me his bones!
By the gods, the Skeleton King himself. Cain is surrounded by undead royal henchmen, and we race to face the first group lest they kill the old scholar where he stands. After we put down the first group, a second wave materializes around us, led by a giant skeleton, Leoric's own personal executioner, Head Cleaver, who stalks us down, attempting to kick us into the pit below. However, as we regain our footing and about face so that his back is to the pit, we hit him with a shield bash that tears his limbs asunder. And as we approach a scared yet safe Cain, he says,
Oh, thank you, but why did you risk yourself for me?
Your niece asked me to find you, and I agreed.
Oh, it is wonderful to hear that Leah is well. I feared the worst. I learned of this secret passage through old maps I found. We must discuss the fallen star. Follow me to Tristram.
We follow Cain out of the path and see the chest in the gardens is now accessible. Then we head back to Tristram as Cain instructs.
I rescued the old scholar and learned from him that a creature called the Skeleton King stands between me and the star. But not for long.
When we arrive, Leah, standing next to Cain, beckons us over and says,
Uncle, you're alive!
Thanks to you and your friend here.
It was my duty to help. Now, I would know of the falling star.
The prophecy of the end days surely points to it as a sign that the end has begun.
Please, Uncle, not more of your stories. All that matters now is that you're back.
And with that, the legacy of Cain is complete. But this mysterious fallen star, and now the re-risen Skeleton King, no doubt stand in our way to solving this mystery. However, that is a story for another day. This is the story of the Shattered Crown and the quest's original appearance in Diablo III. After rescuing the aging Herodric scholar Deckard Cain from the Skeleton King's grasp, we see him in New Tristram's town square, shaken but comforted by his niece Leah, and when we approach him, he informs,
The Skeleton King was once our beloved lord, Leoric. He was driven mad by Diablo's evil. He lost both of his sons and his very soul before he was finally defeated. Now it seems he's risen to plague this land once again.
Then I will be the cure.
The key to defeating him lies in his old crown. Seek out our blacksmith, Adria. He knows of its whereabouts. Leah, you should not dismiss the signs so lightly. Do you not believe the evidence of your own eyes?
Horrors have visited Tristram before, and it endured.
But what of the texts? The Zakharum tomes warn of a falling star. The Herodic scroll spoke of the dead rising, and the Lord of Lies. The prophecy of the end days says that at the end of all things, the first sign shall appear in the heavens.
Yes, you've been telling me about the texts since I was 8 years old, Uncle. I just don't think we should read too much into them.
It seems Cain, for all his knowledge, has yet to make a believer of Leah. But would she believe if she saw what we did in Tristram's Cathedral? The accursed skeleton king Leoric re-risen. We shall heed Cain's words and find this Adria, the blacksmith, to help us in retrieving the unholy crown of the Mad King. As we go to leave, we see the mayor of New Tristram has moved his cart and wonder what changed his mind.
So this is how it ends? They dragged my cart from the road, but for what? I can't get it repaired. Might as well dig a hole and die in it.
Well, digging a hole would certainly take your mind off your fear.
So much for faith in your people.
Bless you for saving Deckard Cain. I don't know what Leah would do, what any of us would do if Cain were truly lost.
Heading northeast around the back of the inn, we overhear some villagers discussing Leah.
Leah spent all night alongside the blacksmith's wife, tending the wounded.
What? She was out defending the gates this morning. What is driving that woman?
What a brave girl. She only seems to think of others.
Did you hear? Old Rumford has us down to half rations. How are we supposed to fight if we're starving?
The rest of the town is down to quarter, including my wife. But you can quit if you want.
So, the town is starving. Nothing like a fatigued and hungry militia to stay vigilant. Passing the merchants and down the stairs, we see a man who appears to be Adria that Cain spoke of, the local blacksmith, and he beckons to us, saying,
Are you Adria? Deckard Cain said you could help me find the crown of Leoric.
Not now. It's my wife. She's locked in the cellar like all those who've been bitten. I'm to put them all down. But how can I kill my own wife?
It is a hard burden you bear. I will help.
Thank you. Follow me.
Adria's wife is infected. Grim tidings indeed. Following the blacksmith as requested, we then pass a villager who warns,
You think you're some type of hero, here to save us all? The dead will feast on your bones as easily as they will ours.
Perhaps he's right. God only knows what they've seen. We then spy a gate out of town covered in blood, but still standing, and the guards then inform us.
This gate is locked by order of the captain.
With no way out of town, we hurry to meet Adria in his cellar of the damned. As soon as we enter the cellar, we realize that this place has been fouled somehow as we draw our sword and cautiously feel our way through its dark rooms. We then see some stretchers strewn about, and it looks like the infirmed were once here, but we can't see them. All that's left is a foul stench that lingers. It's then we come across a barred door, no doubt where the poor wretches are being held. We break it down and
My friends, I'm sorry.
Do your duty, blacksmith, no matter how hard.
The townsfolk, undead, then descend upon us, and after felling the foul foes, once Adria's own brothers, we head to the northeastern side of the cellar. It's there we see Mira, Adria's poor wife, surrounded by the damned. After putting them down, Adria approaches her and says,
Mira, my love, forgive me.
Adria, help me.
Mira, in a new undead form, flings us casually across the room, spewing poison and filth. Adria, momentarily stunned, becomes her next target. We then taunt the wicked wretch and shield ourselves from the worst of her vomitous missiles before slaying the blacksmith's wife. Curiously, we see a tunic laying against the wall. As we put it on, we turn to Adria and he says,
I couldn't have done this without you. I'm in your debt. My name is Adria Aemon.
You owe me nothing, friend, but I would welcome your aid in my quest to find the crown of Leoric.
I can help you there. It's buried with his chancellor, my grandfather. You'll find his tomb in a cemetery in the Weeping Hollow. And if you see my fool apprentice out there, tell him to get back to town.
and with the dark deed done, we leave Hadric Emon to grieve his beloved wife. Now with knowledge that the crown is buried with his grandfather in the cemetery nearby, we head back to town and also remember to keep an eye out for his wayward apprentice. As we leave the cellar, we see the gates are now open and enter the Weeping Hollow. Entering the hollow, we're met with more shambling undead and scavengers preying on the recently fallen. Heading northwest, it's not long before we find a camp, and what's this? A body.
The blacksmith's apprentice. Yet another innocent falls.
Hadric believed his apprentice to be only lost. We must return quickly with the grim news. To which we find Hadric standing at the smithy in town, and he replies,
Your apprentice was found wanting. I'm sorry.
Fool boy. Hope for the worst and you will not be disappointed. Thank you for the news.
Poor man, yet courageous. We then ask him more about the crown, and he recalls,
Tell me about your grandfather. He was King Leoric's chancellor?
Not much to tell. I lived with my father in Chaldeum at the time. We heard that my grandfather stayed in Tristram until the end, trying to save lives. Don't know if he succeeded, but there it is. When the Skeleton King fell, my grandfather was dying from a sword wound. He had the crown sealed with him to keep it safe.
He did what he had to.
With his last breath, it seems Hadric's grandfather may have brought New Tristram respite from the Skeleton King's wrath, but only momentarily. We then approach Cain and Leah for more insight into the happenings, and Cain recounts.
The story of mad King Leoric hangs heavy over this town.
Leoric resisted Diablo's attempts to possess him, but the effort left him weak and confused. When his son Albrecht was kidnapped to be a vessel for Diablo, it destroyed any sanity Leoric had left.
And so he became the Skeleton King.
He commanded an army of the dead deep within the cathedral, finally serving the Lord of Terror he had resisted while alive. Many adventurers tried and failed to slay the Skeleton King. It was left to Leoric's eldest son, Aidan, to finally kill the monster his father had become.
So Leoric's own son put him down. After the tales of his knight Lacdan and killing him first, the Skeleton King's fury must have no end. With the grim news, we head back to the Weeping Hollow in search of the cemetery and the accursed crown. Heading northeast, we hew wretched cadavers entwine as they summon their 6 scores of zombies. As then we see 2 pillars adorned with gargoyles and a tear in the earth itself. This must be the entrance to the cemetery. The corpse attempts to climb the pit as we move to enter, yet we promptly send him back whence he came. It looks like our presence is not welcome here. Entering the gates, we see standard fare of a cemetery overrun by undead. However, there is a handy waypoint back to town we take note of as we clear out the graveyard. As we unearth skeletons, we're reminded of what Deckard Cain had told us of them, saying,
During the last days of King Leoric's reign, even the skeletons of the ancient dead could not rest. They took up their broken armor and weapons once more, ready to cut down anything that yet drew breath. Though wasted and fragile, these creatures possess a twisted cleverness that makes them quite formidable.
We then head inside the southwestern mausoleum in search of Hadric's grandfather. We're shortly then assaulted by a trio of champion skeletons. Blessed with cold, they freeze us, nearly felling us where we stand. Only by retreating to an untainted health pool by the entrance do we best the last of them.
Not enough wrath.
We're then set upon by a group of ghostly murderers not content with their own grave. They seem to want to continue their looting beyond the grave itself. It's then we come across a spectral image of a lady in the middle of the room who says,
"Grave robbers have defiled my tomb. Now my husband writhes in torment because I do not rest at his side. Return my bones so that we may rest in peace."
We help the restless spirit by searching her urns for her bones. Maybe some blessed hammers may be more effective. As we reach into an urn, Lady Dunhild's husband bursts forth and swipes at us, confused in his unrest and seeing us as an unwanted interloper in his tomb. With the Lord contended with, we place Lady Dunhild's bones back into her sarcophagus so she may rest once again.
The dead are at peace now.
In turn, she drops a magnificent lightning-enchanted legendary mace as thanks. Now better equipped to crush the undead with more than a mere spectral hammer, we return to the surface in search of the true grave of the Chancellor. Finding a crypt to the northeast and heading to its second level, we exclaim,
"The crown is close,"
as we round the corner and head for the Chancellor's tomb. The door bursts open to reveal a guardian named Manglemore. With nowhere to retreat, we take water with the abomination, bashing its bloated flesh until it literally bursts at the seams. Our entrance clear, we cautiously step inside the tomb itself. It's not long before we're met with wicked laughter. Skeleton guardians summon their minions to protect the tomb en masse, yet we have the cure in our right hand for such treachery. After which we see, in the middle of a large open room, is the altar of the Chancellors. Bodies are etched into the floor itself about the hooded figure beneath a skull. No doubt a warning to those who disturb the grave. With little recourse, we reach in and touch the crown, but the Chancellor intercepts.
"No, I will not allow you to bring that monster Leoric back to this world."
We have no choice but to destroy the spectral form of Hadrig's own grandfather. We then find boots on his person and the crown now unguarded for us to take. Once we have the crown in our possession, we portal back to Tristram with it in hand and deliver the grim tidings to Hadrig once again.
You found the crown. Truth be told, I didn't think you'd make it back alive. It needs repair. Should be no problem. It's good to work again. There. New as the day it was placed upon the Black King's head. I need something more than making spades to occupy my mind. I want my life to mean something.
Then join my crusade. The work is hard, the rewards are few, and you'll likely die.
That does sound meaningful and awful.
That's 3 people close to him in one day. After Hadrig fixes the crown and has been given a thorough pep talk about joining the crusade,
you throw yourself into the work of the crusade. Is this how you grieve?
I don't follow your crusade.
It isn't your cause, friend, but everyone needs to believe in something.
I believe this armor needs repairing.
Then that is enough. I will leave you to your work.
We see Cain is ready to aid us in destroying the Skeleton King now that we have his crown. After retrieving the Skeleton King's crown from the Chancellor's altar, we return to New Tristram, crown in hand, and speak to the scholar Deckard Cain, who instructs.
I have the crown.
At last. With it, you can unlock the sealed door in the room where you rescued me and enter the royal crypts. When you find the Skeleton King, place the crown atop his head and destroy him.
If it helps me find the fallen star, I will put an end to him.
And so we have a new task. Remove the Skeleton King from his re-risen seat of power. Although we can't help but puzzle at his re-emergence, of more import is the fact he seems to be a final obstacle between us and the mysterious fallen star we seek. It's then we turn to see a nearby Captain Rumford standing idle. Who worries?
The news continues to worsen. How can you continue to wade into the fray with nary a thought for your own safety?
I am a crusader.
We understand that not many can fathom our duty to follow the crusade or to this accursed fallen star, yet call to us it does. And so we travel back to Leoric's hidden passage via Waypoint and through the gardens. Once inside the cathedral, we spy the crater the fallen star has imparted, no doubt coveted by the forces of hell it has stirred in its wake, glowing a vibrant, almost mesmerizing blue hue and inviting us to the depths below. We then prepare ourselves for whatever lies beyond Leoric's ornate door, which leads to the cathedral's second level. Entering the second level, we're met by a large cavernous hall to the north of great statues, and are then confronted with the corpse of a villager, badly scarred and obviously tortured. Heading southwest, we find Leoric's undead minions shambling about, skeletons that take up arms in the name of the undead king and their tomb guardians, responsible for summoning the dead over and again until they too are felled once more. Descending some stairs, we see a gaggle of skeletons caught unawares and are again treated to an assortment of bodies and limbs strewn about, thanks to their sadistic slaughter. Further north, we spy an unguarded chest that only spills a pocketful of gold and alerts nearby carrion bats to our cause. Dispatching the bats with our holy flail, we see another of Lochdarnan's books on the lectern, which reads,
We returned from our horrific defeat in Westmarch. My beloved king lost all pretense of sanity. He seethed with rage, spitting curses upon us as traitors. With great sorrow, I ran him through.
A tragic tale most townsfolk of the area are familiar with, yet helps us understand Leoric's undying rage so much more. To the northwest, we see the undead are actively barring our path as we smash our way through. Waiting on the other side lies a weary bunch of skeleton warriors that fall without a fuss. Why they amble about? It stands to reason they must be attracted to the power of the star below. As we continue our search, we find a wounded townsman, but as we turn his body over, he's all but dead, and a trap is sprung by the undead that creep over a nearby balcony in ambush. Skeletons sorted, another lectern lay in the center of the room, and once more we read of Lochdarnan's journal.
I will forever live in anguish for my last attempt to honor my king. As we lay him to rest in his burial chamber, he manifested as a hideous skeletal demon. Gorash and my other knights were overcome at once, but I fought on.
Upon entering the third level of the cathedral, it's then we spy a handful of necromantic minions barring our path.
Maintain your incantations. He will soon turn.
Ave Magistros. Ave.
Dispatching them, a dark cultist then rushes at us, and more skeletons pour forth, protecting a ritual performed by now 6 cultists encircling a lone victim in the middle.
Your magic is weakening. I am free. Now, back to my mission.
Once freed, we ask,
Who are you, friend?
You will know soon enough. Help me find my gear. I will reward you well. Tell me, what brought you to this infernal place?
I have questions for the Skeleton King.
As do I.
Aiding this warrior to find his items, we move northwest up the stairs and are ambushed by undead ghosts, led by a unique skeleton, Shambo, the Savage. Fearing the warrior will fall without his weapons, we take the brunt of their attacks. Sensing our new ally is in danger, we head north towards the weapons, and our path is actively barred by the servants of Jondar, who apparently does not want this warrior to find his effects.
The cultists dragged me past this glowing pit. What made it?
A falling star, and I mean to find it.
It's then we head south, but are met with more cultists.
Down this way. There are my weapons.
He's free!
I am Cormac, warrior of the Templar Order. If it is the Skeleton King you seek, then you will have to fight your way past Jondar. There is no reason we should hunt alone.
Very well.
Now aided by Cormac of the Templar Order, we seek to hunt down this Jondar en route to the Skeleton King. The Templar, in a more formidable state, proves to be a valuable ally in battle. But as we search for Jondar, we find that the path itself is blocked. Cormac, making short work of the thorny roadblock, leads us to his former ally.
Black magic bars our way, but the will of a Templar is stronger. You were a Templar, Jondar. How could you succumb to this coven?
The coven is my brotherhood now, Cormac. The powers we serve will soon rule this world!
Jondar the Betrayer then sets to work, summoning more of his undead, yet has foregone any semblance of his former station, spewing forth plumes of necrotic poison and thrusting his waved blade in a barely subdued madness. As a Templar, Jondar may have been mighty, but as a necromancer, his cowardice is entwined in his strategy, relying on skeleton minions to do his dirty work at the cost of his own fortitude. As Jondar turns to flee, Cormac pierces his dark heart from behind with his spear, and the necromancer falls to the floor, begging for forgiveness that doesn't come.
Please forgive me. My vision was clouded by the Coven's evil magic.
Betrayal can never be forgiven. Thank you for your aid. I will go with you on your hunt for the Skeleton King. But there is one condition. If we find the sacred tomes of my order, they are mine.
If these tomes are not the key to redeeming the Zakarum faith, then they are indeed yours.
Then onwards we go to fight the Skeleton King. It is good to fight with you again.
We now accept Cormac as our companion in our quest, but we can't help but wonder about the spell held over his former ally, Jondar. We had heard of the Coven previously, black magic and pacts with primevals, but a holy warrior falling to become a lowly necromancer in their ranks. Dark tidings indeed. A new party then sets off to find Leoric's tomb deep within the royal crypts. On our travels, we happen upon the final scroll of Lochdannen sitting on a pedestal.
And now I wander, cursed by my once beloved king. Evil gnaws at my bones, and I cannot risk putting my beloved Tristram in danger should I fail to contain that which tears at me. I must venture down into the labyrinth to die alone.
Lamenting the passing of Leoric's final loyal knight, we realize perhaps there was a parallel between Lochdannen and Jondar, and we should not underestimate the powers of the Skeleton King, lest we suffer a similar fate. Down in the royal crypts, the undead burst forth from their graves in the wall, and as we head into a square ceremonial room, we see Leoric's own sword driven into the ground. Touching the lone sword casts a grisly vision of the past and the Mad King's betrayal by Lochdannen.
Keep your distance from him. This burden is mine to bear. May death bring peace from your madness, Leoric.
Traitors! Even in death, the armies of Condorus will still obey their king, even if you will not.
It's clear the curse of Leoric is powerful and, perhaps as Cain said, stirred once more, amplified by the strange fallen star. As if hearing our thoughts, Leoric's enraged ghost curses.
You dare to bring the warmth of life into my tomb?
We shall put you down, Hellspawn!
We then contend with Leoric's undead minions and destroy his pillars of power that have been bolstering them. Now, our only task left is to confront the Skeleton King himself. Delving deeper into his shambled crypt, we find a parchment of Leoric's own journal, and it reads,
"We have just arrived in Tristram, and I must say, I'm a bit dismayed. This place is a backwater filled with serfs and an ancient broken-down monastery, hardly fit for the King of Condorus. I cannot fathom why Lazarus was so intent on this becoming our new seat of power."
After which, we find a familiar seal on a door to the northwest. No doubt the crypt of the Skeleton King himself. Upon entering, he immediately taunts.
"You will never defeat me!"
You were defeated the moment you surrendered to madness.
Our path is now crumbled before us, and we search the northern arm of the crypt, but returned minions block our ascendance. Yet the returned fail the same. It's then we head up the stairs to Leoric's throne. His body sat atop his massive chair, as if to rule in undeath as he did in life. We know we must confront the king, which means he must rise again. And so we place his crown atop his ghoulish brow. Leoric, thanks to whatever black curse that sustains him, rises once more. Double the size of an ordinary man and hefting a mace that no mortal could carry atop his shoulder. We retreat backwards as he laughs madly, swinging his giant weapon with glee. Like the necromancer Jonda, he summons skeletons to his aid, splitting Cormac and I up as we contend with the foes separately. We realize that we must work in tandem, dodging Leoric's great swaths while Cormac stabs relentlessly at his flank. Using Leoric's own pride as a weapon, we gain the high ground atop his throne. He rushes at us, infuriated. However, he underestimates teamwork. As his ego dictates, he focuses on his prized throne. Cormac seizes his opportunity, and we strike him a final blow together. Leoric's body floats high in the air as the dark magics rip his corpse asunder, leaving us to pick up his treasures, including his coveted skeleton crown once more. With the Skeleton King defeated, we see revealed is a hidden chamber below his throne, and cautiously enter the cavern below. Inside the desolate chamber, we descend some stairs and...
The crater, at last.
See the source of the fallen star, finally, a man at its center. And he's alive. We step towards the mysterious stranger and he stirs.
The falling star was a man? Interesting.
I remember falling.
Through several floors at least.
I am not your enemy. I think, yes, I believe I have come with a warning. The darkness is coming. I don't remember.
Be calm and come with me.
The perplexed herald then hobbles to a nearby waypoint, heading back to New Tristram, and as he beckons, all we can do, it seems, is follow.
The fallen star was a man. Only a man. I begin to wonder if his fall is related to my crusade. I will take him to the old scholar. He may know.
We then take the man to Deckard Cain, who incredulously questions.
Cain, meet the falling star.
No man could survive such a thing. Who are you? What are you?
A warrior, I think. I came bearing grave news, but I cannot remember.
Your message might be all that can save us from impending doom.
And so, the riddle of the hidden star is solved, or rather spawned more questions about this stranger. His message of an impending darkness confirms, although we do not understand the greater forces at play, we do know that our instincts were right to follow the star, and that our crusade against the forces of hell lie with the stranger himself. After locating the mysterious stranger unconscious in the heart of a fallen star, we escort him to New Tristram and speak to the aging scholar, Deckard Cain, who begins to question his identity, asking,
Tell me everything you remember, stranger. Every detail.
Falling. Fire. A sword of great power. It was part of me, but it shattered into 3 pieces as I fell.
It is vital that we find those pieces. I believe the sword made whole will restore your memory.
The goatmen are rampaging through the fields. Could the sword have anything to do with that?
Of course, of course. Just as the dead rose around the stranger, the sword pieces drove the goatmen to madness.
All goatmen are mad. They don't need a sword for that. But I will search their fields.
Perhaps this broken sword of the stranger coveted by the feral goatmen will restore his memories. However, we question if Cain's own Horodric order may hold further clues to the current events and query.
The Horodrim were powerful mages gathered together by the archangel Tyrael to defeat the 3 prime evils, Diablo, Mephisto, and Baal. They devoted themselves fully to the destruction of the demon lords and left behind valuable tomes and teachings.
How did you become the last of them?
My ancestor was the leader of the Horodrim, Deckard Cain. When the Horodrim died out, their tomes stayed in my family. I was thrilled by tales of the Horodrim as a little boy, but it wasn't until I returned to them as an adult that I realized they contained deeper truths.
Although the prime evils seem to be behind most of the misgivings in Tristram's own past, we question why instead the stranger fell from the heavens, and Cain expounds.
Tyrael is the angel of justice. He has been helping mankind for generations, though he is forbidden to do so in any direct manner. Long ago, the high heavens and the burning hells made a pact as a result of the Sin War that they would not interfere in our world.
The demons broke this pact, yet Tyrael did nothing.
The Angiris Council, the archangels that lead heaven, almost destroyed our world once to keep the demons from spreading their corruption upon it. If Tyrael were to act directly, it would alert the Council to the demons' activities here and imperil us all.
It would seem humanity's greatest ally is one Archangel Tyrael, but he is sworn to not intervene in human matters. Mulling this over, we turn to the stranger and press him for any memory that could potentially aid us in finding his sword.
Do you remember anything besides falling?
Only that there were surges of light and a kind of pain.
So, nothing then?
The emptiness gnaws at me. It is a constant frustration.
You have nothing to believe in. The sword will help.
This sword is a part of his very being? Although we don't fully grasp the concept, we do somehow understand the feeling. Speaking of a good sword arm, we turn to enlist the aid of the Templar, Cormac, before we explore the Khazra-infested fields of misery.
I cannot return to the Order in glory until the rivers run red with the blood of our enemies. Lead the way to glory!
Entering the cemetery of the Forsaken via waypoint, we force our way through the dilapidated iron gates to the northwest. heading over a ramshackle bridge that can barely sustain our weight and into the infamous Fields of Misery. It's then Cormac steadfastly announces,
"If there's a sword here, we will find it."
Not long after, we're waylaid by enemies and must defend ourselves. During the battle, we see on the corpse of a slain traveller a journal by one Abd al-Hazir that reads,
"The Tristram fields are fair lands, fertile and temperate. Superstitious farmers kept away from them for quite a while after the fall of Old Tristram. But time has persuaded them to abandon these ridiculous notions and take up the hoe and plough once more. Now they supply crops to both New Tristram and Wertham."
It's unfortunate that good people have paid with their lives, but who could have guessed the events would transpire, set about due to a star that would fall, and that darkness would descend again on this sleepy hamlet once more. Scouring the fields, we find, amid the bodies of dead townsmen at a forlorn farm, lies a corpse of a beast. Upon closer inspection, we discover
something has been gnawing at this corpse.
All around the carcass, burrowing leapers who lay in wait spring forth for another victim. Led by a unique burrow bile, a grotesque scavenger guiding the ambush. It spews electricity as it wildly claws in hopes of a fresh kill. Bearing the brunt of the attack, it's shocked to be relieved of its own life instead, thanks to a powerful swipe of our holy flail.
Those scavengers trapped my poor wife and me down there for hours. I'm sure she'd love to meet you, and thank you for your help.
Momentarily taken aback by the farmer's surprise appearance, we do oblige him nonetheless and head into his cellar below to meet his grateful wife.
"My love, this is the man who saved our farm."
This is your wife. She appears unwell.
"She has been ill of late, but my love will see her through."
I should really go.
Oh, she's nodded off.
What a cruel and undeserving fate for the man. Clearly, the accursed goatmen are not the only denizens driven mad by the presence of the fallen star's power. Dark tidings indeed. It's southeast that we contend with plague nests and cave leapers, which seem to be the prevailing monstrosities subsisting on death and decay wrought by the elusive goatmen. It's not long before we happen upon another residence tucked into the north side of the hill, a sheltered cottage, and remark,
someone lives here.
Stay away! There's nothing in here of use to you!
We should have known. The farm was left over a fortnight ago, and yet we stayed. Last night, we heard the beasts creeping closer. My husband left to investigate, and I haven't seen him since. All I have left are the things we made together. Hopefully, they are of more use to someone else.
Clearing the area just outside the residence in hopes of creating safe passage, we then step inside and inform the tinkerer therein, who says,
"These are dark times, my friend. I thought for a moment you were one of those dreadful goatmen. Since you're not, would you like to buy something?"
We take up her offer, and while perusing her wares, Cormac then states,
"I'm glad that fate has brought us together on this path."
"Why is that?"
"You fight with both honor and ferocity. I know that a pure soul must burn within you."
We thank Cormac for his kind remark, and while later searching for the den of the Khazra, we begin the task of clearing the area, starting with an overrun crypt, its inhabitants unsettled by the star, and learn more about the Templar as he questions.
The darkness.
But we are courageous. Surely you don't suggest evil is brave?
We don't know if evil is courageous per se, but pervasive, yes. Ever a threat to all that is good? Absolutely. Vigilance is required and determination, especially when undertaking the unenviable task of putting to rest good men and women re-risen and in the service of the unholy powers that be. Clearing the crypt, we then return to our search of the fields once more, living up to their name as we miserably trudge through the bog, lost and still in search of the ever-elusive Khazra den. Probing the fields, we find a den that has been burrowed out of a dead tree, corpses littered about, and potentially what we're in search of. With no goatmen about, we do find, however, a single villager's corpse and say,
"This one hasn't been dead long."
As then we're set upon by more buried leapers. Heading inside the burrow to the east, Cormac then further questions.
Are you ever afraid in battle?
No. I feel fear before and after the battle.
Few could admit that so simply.
We enter the second level and are accosted by a multitude of leapers. Their unique leader, Zalix Greedgallo, attacks, using a jailing ability to attempt to hold us in place and make us a later meal. We bludgeon the animals with our warhammer, but unfortunately, to little effect. Their hides seem to be too strong and our weapon failing, but it holds out long enough for us to deliver the final blow. Felling the fiend, we then see the spoils it was guarding, including a formidable polearm for our fight to come. Fortune smiling upon us as we attempt to leave the cave via shrine, an errant leaper decides to make a last-ditch attempt at barring our path, giving us ample advantage to test our new weapon as it cuts a swath effortlessly through its bloated belly. Scouring the fields once more to the north, we happen upon a trio of Moon Clan warriors milling about and realize that they were sentries to their lair, saying,
"The sword piece is near."
But the den itself is not unguarded, as a hiking wood wraith springs to life in its defense as if called by the star itself. Once clear, we see the familiar blue hue of the fallen star. Evident, a fragment of the sword has plummeted through the earth and into the accursed goatman's sanctuary. Inside, we're confronted with bloody effigies, crudely bound with human skulls atop wards for any foolish enough to venture forth. Gathering our party, we step west into the den as a huge log trap springs, nearly killing us with its girth. We do happen to see a poor previous victim's legs, all that's left of their encounter. Now, alerted to our presence, a brigade of Moon Clan goatmen and coven cultists rushes, thankfully, our halberd cleaving their flesh with ease. As we explore the den, another wooden trap is sprung, but we are more wary this time and step aside as a cultist cries,
"Kill him!"
Moving north, the air changes from a crimson bloody mist to raw, crackling energy from the star's resting place. Surrounding it are cultists who scramble.
We must hurry with the ritual. Magda will be here soon. It is turning.
The zealots, so focused on their prize, nary acknowledge our intrusion during their incantation. We then spy a lone prisoner on the west side of the room and go to free him. Unfortunately, it's too late. We steal our resolve.
"I admire your tenacity, but you're mad!"
And fling our holy shield into the back of the far left mage as it ricochets into his brethren. Caught off guard and ripped from their spell, only two still stand. The chief among them, Leoric the Seer, casting a curse that only momentarily breaks our resolve as we call upon the heavens themselves and leap high in the air to come crashing down on him as his body limply twists in defeat.
The sword glows. Perhaps the goatmen truly were driven mad.
Who are you to take what is mine?
I am a crusader.
Regardless, I have claimed it. I am Magda, and I lead this coven. The shard is mine.
I disagree.
Very well. Let the games begin.
The new winged apparition, Magda, apparently leader of the coven, summons an army of enraged zealots to do her dirty work, yet without time to cast their petty magics, a little more than fodder for the might of a crusader.
Well fought, but you will never possess the next piece. It has fallen where only the ancients may tread.
She is more devious than she appears.
Although this battle has been won, the war is still fought. Magda promises that the next piece of the sword cannot be possessed so lightly, but her pride may be her downfall, as she has imparted a valuable clue on its whereabouts. Cautiously, we move towards the glowing sword shard and excavate it from the earth. Now, firmly in our possession, we return to town via portal, handing it to Cain, who exclaims,
"Here is a piece of the sword. It was held by a witch and her coven."
Uncle Deckard, they sound like those dark cultists you told me about.
Very good, Leah. You have been paying attention. Stranger, does any of this jar your memory?
I have no memory of this coven, but I sense a far darker shadow guiding its hand.
Although we now know the reason for the goatman's frenzy, we cannot help but question the motives of this coven, and more so, the darker shadow the stranger mentioned guiding its hand. What we do know is that we shall not have the luxury of underestimating our foes a second time. In the last episode, we battled the Coven in the putrid Khazra den in search of the broken blade. Yet again, we're nearly thwarted by the Coven's leader, Magda.
Well fought, but you will never possess the next piece. It has fallen where only the ancients may tread.
She is more devious than she appears.
Cormac is right. We can't help but think that we're being led and doing Magda's bidding unwittingly. Still, with the sword shard in hand, we hurry back to Leah, noticing that the strange blue glowing hue that had emanated from the sword seems to have abated in the town of New Tristram.
Their leader, Magda, said the next piece fell where only ancients may tread.
That makes me think of the drowned temple near the festering woods. I remember you telling me about it, Uncle.
Exactly, Leah. The temple was home to the Nephilim. Leah, your knowledge could be invaluable. You must go and help our friend retrieve the sword piece.
The Nephilim were ancient humans with fantastic powers. Legend holds that they waged a terrible battle near the temple, and that their ghosts still war with one another.
Some power, it seems, is too great for man. Speaking of which, we turn to the stranger once more, curious about the power in which his sword holds, and he recalls.
"I sense power in this twisted metal."
Indeed, it feels familiar to me, though the rest is still unclear.
"This is the weapon of a man with strong convictions."
Is that what I was? Then what am I without my convictions?
"Whatever you have forgotten is not lost. It will be restored."
We can sense a greatness in the man and of the reforging of his weapon. We hope that it will help reforge his faith as we head with our new party, led by Leah, into the field of misery. And she says,
"You and I aren't so different. I have great power within me too. The only difference is I have no control over mine."
"Then you have not yet found your calling."
"I hope I never do. The power is so great that, I don't know, it scares me."
We too can sense a burgeoning power in Leah, but don't quite understand it. She seems like such a sweet girl, and quite handy by our side as we clear out the wood raids.
A well-deserved death.
It's then we happen upon a morbid sight. A villager lies dead, crumpled on the ground, and in the midst of the village are Moon Clan warriors in a ritual. They only stir because we had interrupted their dark gathering, which is turned into a bloodbath. We step over the fresh bodies littered about, and on top of the mound, it looks to be a sacrificial site and a chest that they were guarding. After plundering its contents, then we find villagers splayed about, and carrion demons are picking clean the corpses as the village burns. The field really lives up to its name. A savage beast then spots us and becomes enraged by our trespassing. It beats its chest angrily, but it doesn't help. Its body burns under the holy light, and we see that it was guarding a stolen sack. Inside is a diary from a scoundrel, which reads,
After much searching, I have found a promising lead. A family near New Tristram has obtained a valuable relic, and, poor fools that they are, they haven't the slightest idea what to do with it. I have some idea of what to do with their daughter, though. And through her, I'll get my prize.
As if demons weren't bad enough, man's greed never ceases to amaze, and it's then a man stops us in the road.
You there! Please help! They're going to kill my friend!
We try and tell the man to stop for a moment so that we can understand the situation. He seems to be bound, but further presses.
Thieves are going to kill my friend if we don't do something. Help me break these bonds and see for yourself!
What do they want with your friend?
She's just a farmer's daughter, Sosha, but she has a relic that the thieves are after.
He's deserted you. Just give it over.
My sweet love will save me.
Inside the ramshackle village, we find a woman in a blue dress who is being accosted by 3 brigands. One is waving his dagger in her face as he tells his companions,
Nigel will have our hearts if we don't find this thing.
We don't know who Nigel is, but maybe we'll find out.
Release the girl. The relic belongs to her.
You actually believe what this scoundrel tells you? Fine, you fools. We'll kill the both of you.
All 3 brigands then set upon us and a scuffle breaks out. The poor girl in the blue dress is stuck in between as the scoundrel lobs his arrows from his crossbow from behind. However, the battle seems to have just begun as more brigands pour forth from the building to the east, reinforced by their leader, Nigel Cutthroat himself.
You won't get away from us this time!
This time? Amidst the chaos, we're momentarily confused. What would he mean this time? But it's then we realize we 100% have been had and caught in whatever petty plot that this scoundrel had dragged us into. We almost would consider negotiating if Nigel Cutthroat wasn't such a deadly foe and the world would probably be better without him. And for the safety of the poor girl. We're gonna have words with that scoundrel when this is over.
This isn't over. The rest of the Thieves' Guild will find you.
With that threat of the Thieves' Guild coming after us, Nigel Cutthroat is dead. And like clockwork, we find the scoundrel by the farmer's daughter, and she reveals the fate of the relic, saying,
Here's the relic, my love. I hid it like you asked. Father's grown suspicious of us, but that won't matter once we're married. It won't be long, right?
Of course, my dear. Soon we will settle down to a quiet life of tilling the fields and raising children. But first, I have to sell this relic. Alas, I must travel away with my friend here to do so.
You wish to join my crusade? It's a hard path.
Yes, absolutely. The way is hard and all that. Shall we go?
Unfortunately for the scoundrel, he has a sudden discovery.
Wait. The relic is a fake! Gods, I should have known. You seem like you could use a helping hand. And I sure as hell don't want to stay around here.
Please tell me that you're not considering this criminal's proposal.
Although Cormac does make a really good case. It seems the scoundrel is a criminal and cannot be trusted. However, we seem to think that perhaps the fates have brought him to us. As we head east, we find a broken bridge and water is coming down from the north, so the drowned temple must be in that direction. As suspected, we find the drowned temple and a waypoint back to town. It should be noted that we will flesh out the scoundrel's story further, but for now, he introduces himself before we send him back to town.
What of your betrothed?
Betrothed? Do I look like the marrying kind to you? By the way, my name is Lyndon.
We then turn to the massive drowned temple. Leah begins to regale us of her future dream of owning an inn, but is immediately caught off guard at the sheer scope of the temple as she explains.
When this is over, I could open my own little inn somewhere.
What the tomes say of Leoric and this temple is not encouraging.
Yes, learning about her inn has to wait. And as we head down the massive stairs of the temple, we see a ghost surrounded by dead bodies. And it beckons to us. Leah seems undisturbed, saying,
"You must be Leoric the Guardian. Uncle Deckard told me of your eternal watch over this cursed place. I thought it was a myth."
Are you Nephilim?
No. There have been no Nephilim for a millennium.
Yet another myth. You seek entrance to this temple, but only a Nephilim can enter. If you retrieve the keys from the outlying tombs and use them on the gates, we will see who and what you truly are. Follow me. I will raise the bridge that you may pass.
And so we follow the ghost up the stairs to a secret bridge.
Seek 2 tombs in the woods beyond. The Warrior's Rest and the Crypt of the Ancients. Within them reside the keys to our sacred temple.
The ghost trudges off, leaving us to find these keys to the Warrior's Rest and the Ancients' Temple. We cannot help but think this may be outside of the purview of Cormac's duties, and, fearing for his safety, we send him back to town.
Honor, always.
With fewer numbers, it means fewer potential victims if we cannot make the criteria of the Nephilim. We head into the festering woods as crumbling bones are sinking into the ground. The dead themselves rise to meet us.
They won't get us!
Drink his blood.
Are these Alaric's people?
No.
We've been warned of the Nephilim and the ancient battlegrounds, but this seems to be something else entirely. Demonic, in essence, a plague carrier's nest springs forth to send out its seed and try and end our search prematurely. To the north, we find the Crypt of the Ancients, but it looks more like a mining tunnel as we see equipment scattered about. Upon entering, we're immediately met with a gaggle of undead. Whatever the return to guarding, we can't imagine that someone's life was worth the risk.
This is amazing. It reminds me of being a child and searching for lost artifacts with Uncle Deckard.
Wow, what a childhood. No wonder Leah is looking to own an inn. And we thought the crusade was a hard life. Heading around the eastern side of the pit in the center that the miners were extracting whatever it was before that they were overwhelmed by the undead, we then find a super unique and arcane enchanted Alot Chompfang. We would find the name somewhat humorous in normal circumstances if it wasn't for his plague carriers overwhelming us, arcane beams burning our kidneys.
I'm injured!
We yell out to Leah as we head down a ramp and pull a new mob of undead. Making haste, we run past the arcane beams and gather as many health globes as we can muster, turning to face Alot Chompfang on our terms. Taunting his allies into a cluster, we hit him with a shield bash that sends them reeling. Clearing up the rest of the denizens of the mine, we then head north, finding a beacon of light sitting atop a pedestal. With one down, we just have the beacon of honor from the Warrior's Rest to go. Heading west, it's not long until we find the Warrior's Rest, which is very different from the Crypt of the Ancients. The Rest itself is a large, sprawling cavern. Below the natural, narrow walkway belies a city which must have belonged to the Ancients. We can only see in the distance. Then we're accosted by a group of ancient returned that seem to be guarding the beacon as their brethren did as well. Plague carriers swarm us, and again arcane beams burst to life, rotating laconically as we're peppered by arrows. The source of the arrows is Ufir, mangler of heroes, and it seems that this ancient is also arcane enchanted and guarding the beacon of light. Gather what we can of the corpse and pluck the beacon from its resting place. We then remember Leah's inn.
Leah, tell me more about your inn.
The world is so dangerous. Everybody needs a quiet, safe place to rest and recover. A way station on their journeys.
You will make a fine innkeeper.
If I survive this mess.
We realize that nothing in life is actually guaranteed, but entering the festering woods once more, we sincerely hope Leah gets a wish. Back at the Drowned Temple, we place the beacon on the pedestals. As we do so, a hidden door is revealed behind Leoric, and we speak to the spirit once more who guides.
The temple is open. Enter and defeat the guardians within. Although they are my brothers, they will seek your death when you enter.
Cautiously, we enter the Drowned Temple, ready for a battle against the ancient guardians.
Look at this architecture. This predates the Sin War.
Leah's fascination with the architecture is stifled immediately by returned guardians, ready to stamp out any unwanted interlopers. The temple itself, although impressive, is living up to its name as it's drowned and we're forced to fight ankle deep in water. Further up the hallway, we encounter a skeleton nearly double the size of an ordinary man.
None may enter the inner sanctum.
His name is Ezek, the prophet, dragging his large two-handed axe. It's clear that he's weary from his years guarding the Drowned Temple. But why? What's so important to these ancient Nephilim? If they are indeed our forebears, shouldn't they welcome us?
Rise, my brothers! Rise and do battle!
Well, that answers that. The ancients obviously covet their secrets, as Brother Moek, Brother Laryl, and Brother Harold are re-risen to test us once more. Realizing we're no match for the brothers as a trio, we proceed with our final gambit. Racing back to the dilapidated bridge, we hope to contend with them single file and even out the odds. Outfaced with a final blow on Brother Laryl, quickly realize he may have the last laugh. His corpse explodes in a brilliant plume. Call upon heaven's might with our falling sword and land on both brothers. Moek falls and Carol meets our shield.
And this Chaldean.
It smelled of brothels and ale.
Even so, it was full of trade and new ideas. There was always something exciting to see.
With the brothers felled, Leah then admits she misses Chaldean. After visiting Chaldean, we realize she's probably not a fan of this Drowned Temple. It's then we speak to Leoric once more.
Your strength rivals that of our greatest champions. What now do you think you are? You may enter our most sacred place.
Although we don't understand what we are or how we face the trials, as we never would believe we're Nephilim, especially as we don't meet the height requirement. What we do know is that we are, and forever will be, Crusaders of the Light. It's then Da reappears.
The noble hero fought his way here just to die.
I admire your persistence.
And who is this you bring with you? Adria's daughter? She has power within her. No matter. Your mother will soon share your fate, little one. The shard is mine. Fill this temple with their blood!
This pace, we're almost saddened by the fact that Magda thought her pathetic coven could do more than slow us down, but realized they needed us to access the temple as they were no Nephilim.
This fight was too easy. She's toying with us. We must get back to Uncle Deckard right away.
Heeding Leah's words, we extract the glowing shard from the crater. Make our way back to New Tristram post-haste. With a moment of respite, we ask Leah about the Drowned Temple, as she seemed to know much about its architecture and history.
The Drowned Temple was once known as the Sarsium Emporis. It was the most sacred of their temples, a site where legend claims angels would come to impart their wisdom to the Nephilim.
We then inquire about Leah's childhood, as her mother was mentioned, but instead she talks about Cain, saying,
Uncle Deckard and I traveled all over the world in my youth, looking for lost lore and artifacts. It was so exciting, crawling around ancient temples.
Leah, mid-explanation, runs to her uncle and we realize this may become a habit. If we then query Cain about his adventures with Leah and what it was like taking her around the big dangerous world when she was a child, he says,
"You raised Leah during your travels, but the road is a dangerous place for a child."
Not as dangerous as you might think. There was a calm about the world then. Most people paid no mind to an old man and young girl, weaponless and penniless, crossing their lands.
Return a sword piece to the stranger, we asked Cain about the Nephilim, as we believed they were gone with the World Stone.
The World Stone was an ancient artifact of immense power. It was used not only to create our world, but also to control mankind. The original humans were known as the Nephilim, and their power was such that it was feared they would tip the balance in the eternal conflict between the high heavens and the burning hells. So the World Stone was tuned to lessen our powers, turning mankind into what we are today. But now that it has been destroyed, it is conceivable that the powers of the Nephilim will reappear.
So we were wrong. The World Stone was used to dampen the Nephilim's powers. But what happened then if the World Stone itself was destroyed?
Tyrael was forced to destroy the World Stone when Baal, the Lord of Destruction, corrupted it in his attempt to control all of mankind.
Unfortunate.
It obliterated Mount Ariat, the mountain that housed it, leaving only a smoking crater in its place. And nothing has been heard from Tyrael since.
It's then we finally turn to the stranger and present to him his missing sword piece, leaving only the final piece, said to be the missing hilt. In the last episode, we continue our journey looking for shards of the broken sword of the stranger, this time guarded by the spirits of the ancient and powerful Nephilim, who claim that we are a part of their lost lineage. And, of course, again, we are barred by the witch Magda and her evil coven, yet overcome them, taking the shard to New Tristram and the mysterious stranger once more. And it seems we're only missing the hilt until the sword is complete.
Here, the second piece of the sword. Magda now seeks the third.
I remember a glow streaking towards a fishing village.
The only fishing village near here is Wertham.
You're right, Leah. It must be Wertham. There is a ferry on the edge of Tristram that will take you there.
Before we head to the nearby fishing village of Wertham, we have questions. Why is this stranger being targeted specifically by the Coven?
Tell me of this coven.
I have no memory of them, except a feeling, a darkness that is known to me.
Known to you?
The Coven may be part of a greater evil. Perhaps I intended to fight it.
You'll need your sword.
Although we're uneasy that this man knows evil, we cannot help but feel that he is just in his cause. Heading southwest and around the corner, we begin our travels to the ferry and to the town of Wertham. However, a villager's wife glances at us as if she's in need of our help, but surprised to hear.
Wife, don't think I don't see you undressing our fine hero with your treacherous eyes.
I would look at you instead had you a weapon like that.
Somebody buy this man a halberd and his wife a sense of decency. Just north, we hear two guards discussing the safety of the village, saying,
I was thinking...
Don't hurt yourself.
I was thinking that we should try to recruit more soldiers. What happens if we get attacked again?
We just spent a week fighting off hundreds of walking corpses outside our impenetrable gates. We're the hardest bastards within 100 miles. Who's going to attack us?
Although we do admire their courage facing the walking dead, we have witnessed horrors that would make the zombies at the gate pale by comparison. It's then we head southwest and down to the docks and see Stout Man standing at the end of the dock that is swinging his lantern to and fro, It looks like something's got him jittery.
Wertham, please.
I will take you, but beware. Smoke rises from the village.
Arriving at Wertham, we see the sky filled with embers, dead villagers scattered about, and a man runs past screaming,
"They're destroying the town! Get out while you can!"
We check on the villagers, but they've been badly burnt and left for dead. Heading around the south of the building, we try stealth. However, we're pounced upon by the local coven, and it looks like we're far too late. On the ground, we see a priest's satchel. However, before we can pick up the book, more coven acolytes rush us. Scorched by a mage flinging fireballs, we contend with him before reading the burnt journal.
One of the men retrieved a strange artifact in his nets. It looked like a hilt of an ancient blade, but I know it must be more. The fisherman argued with me, but I convinced him to leave it in the safety of the chapel, a holy place for a holy relic.
By the light, they found a relic. Before we can contemplate this, the coven rout us.
Death to those who defy the power of the coven.
We're too late.
Don't give up.
No, due to the priest's journal keeping the hilt of the blade at the local chapel, the coven, now desperate, have a score of their acolytes between us and our goal. We look around momentarily at the village that is now in cinders and contemplate how lost can this coven be that they would burn a village full of civilians just for a hilt of a sword. And what does the sword itself mean to them or their dark master? We have many questions for Magda and feel that soon we will have answers. Heading north to the town centre, we encounter a disheveled villager who pleads.
"Please, my family's hiding in the chapel with the rest of the townsfolk. We must get to them."
Don't run off! You'll get yourself killed!
More dead villagers litter the streets, and we can't help but feel afraid. This is the outcome for most of the townsfolk of Wertham. Heading closer to the chapel, a dozen coven await our arrival and attack in unison. We unfortunately fall for their trap as we step back on our heels, dealing with the dark dagger-wielding cultists, throwing our shield at them as it ricochets and they explode in gore, exposed to the dark evokers the whole time.
The people in the chapel need my help. I'm going on ahead.
Fools! You cannot keep the sword from me!
This is bad.
My servants will burn this town to ashes!
Magda, keeping to her promise, summons more cultists to try and overwhelm us, led by the super unique evoker Urzel Mordreg. Content to fling fireballs, we then breach the gap. However, they summon a demonic creature to their side and more evokers to try and attack us in tandem from behind. We hit them with a falling sword and thrust our halberd into their guts.
I hear something coming.
A foe worth killing.
Magda is pulling no punches as she summons a trio of dark berserkers. Although berserkers are said to be weak by the standards of demonkind, their strength is still far greater than that of any human. The means of summoning them was actually discovered, supposedly, by the Archbishop Lazarus. Though it seems now these black-blooded fiends are in service of Magda and the Coven.
The people in the chapel need my help. I'm going on ahead.
Leah then goes ahead to help out the villagers. We ourselves move north and see the chapel. Some of the villagers that were hiding inside start to scramble out, and as we look closer, we realize they seem to be okay, or at least have fared better than the Coven themselves. Just to the east of the chapel, we see a priest out the front, who no doubt owned the journal. Speaking to him, he says,
I seek the hilt of a sword. It fell from the sky. Have you seen it?
We found it days ago. I wish we'd never brought it here. Come, I left Virgil to guard it. We will be glad to be rid of it.
I'm going back to Tristram to check on Uncle Deckard.
Her uncle departs our company, and we promptly head into the cellar of the Wertham Chapel. now set ablaze, so we must make haste. Inside the chapel, the walls are crumbling as it burns and cinders around us. Checking the shelves and any hiding places that we can think of, we then discover poor Virgil Hilt. We check on his corpse. It doesn't seem that he died of smoke inhalation. A pool of blood around his body reveals he was massacred where he stood, as if mimicking the gruesome depiction in the macabre art above his body. We move into the next room and what's this? We see the hilt on a table, but it's a ruse.
It's gone.
While you were on your hero's errand here, I captured all 3 sword pieces and your friends.
I should have known. I must get back to Cain's house.
We're now at a severe disadvantage. Magda has all the pieces of the sword and our allies. We make haste to the waypoint at the northern wall and pause momentarily. Looking at all of the otherworldly art, we cannot help but think these events appear to be a part of a much larger scheme. Entering New Tristram, we race to Cain's house and enter to see too late.
It's your choice, Cain. Either use your heraldric arts to repair the sword, or your dear Leah dies a horrible death.
All this pain, this destruction. What is the sword to you?
To me, nothing. To my master, Belial, everything. Your rage is overwhelming, girl. You win this round, but if the sword cannot be mine, I'll claim the one it's bound to. In the end, the blade shall be mine.
Uncle, you can't die.
Nothing can stop that now. But there is one last thing I must do. The sword must be made whole. Just as I suspected, the sword is of the high heavens. The stranger is an angel. Heed the journal. The truth lies within.
Uncle Deckard!
With Cain dead, the stranger lost and the sword absconded with, all we can do is comfort Leah somewhat before we begin on the trail of the Coven and their dark master Belial for the sword once more. In the last episode, we found the pieces of the broken sword only to be thwarted by Magda, who had absconded with not only the sword, but also with our allies. Returning to New Tristram, we find Deckard Cain being tortured along with the stranger in efforts that Magda will have the sword reforged. However, he refuses, and the stranger is dragged away by Magda, and Cain reforges the sword, giving his life in the process, to reveal it is the weapon of an angel from the heavens. Outside the deceased scholar's house, we find Leah, his ward, who blames herself for his demise and laments.
If only I could control this power, I could have saved him.
I'm sorry, Leah. It is hard to see someone so close fall. I will go after Magda.
Magda and her master Belial. The journal speaks of an angel falling from the heavens as the shadow rises from the abyss. The stranger is the key to all of this.
We must bring him the sword, so that he can fight at our side.
When my power erupted, I saw into Magda's mind for an instant. She's fled to the highlands. You can reach them through the caves above Wertham. You have to know, she'll be waiting for you.
She won't have to wait long.
When arriving at this sleepy hamlet, never did we imagine of the events that would transpire. A fallen angel's blade that was lost, and a deranged witch and her coven that erroneously swears fealty to the Lord of Lies, Belial. We know to uncover the lesser evil's treachery, we must first recover the stranger, his powerful weapon. Before we head to the Highlands as instructed by Leah, there is one matter we don't fully understand. Her power. We ask her more of it, and she explains.
This damned power I have. Uncle Deckard said it came from my mother. He tried to teach me how to control it using his heraldric training, but it never really helped. He never gave up on me, though. He was a great man.
Of that, we have little doubt. We leave Leah to mourn the loss of her uncle and head back through the waypoint to Wertham's chapel. Once inside, we pass where the broken hilt had been absconded with, and poor Virgil's corpse. The building's blaze has not yet been put out by the townsfolk, and it seems Wertham has been deserted, left to meet its fate. Heading to the northern side of the chapel, we see corpses are still littered about. Thankfully, none of the townsfolk remain. And then we spy the town gate that was once locked. Opens to us, covered in fresh blood. More corpses are scattered about the road. It's not long till we come to some steps and what's this? Some type of eggs? Spiders then burst forth out of their festering cocoons, no doubt surfacing for what they thought was an easy snack. Tepidly stepping across the bridge, it quickly becomes apparent that this area is infested by spiders. To our utter surprise, by the bridge and a stall stands a man wearing a cloak named Roger, the alchemist. Approaching him, he says,
"Hello, Wanderer. I sell quality potions and dyes at a fair price. Have a look if you like. Oh, and would you do me a favor? There's a lunatic down by the caves who wants a potion to make his blood sweet, if you can believe it. Would you mind bringing it down to him?"
We can hardly believe what we just saw. The spiders totally ignore this alchemist who does indeed have wares, but more so, he wants us to bring a potion to some lunatic who wants to make his blood sweet. It sounds like the alchemist is the lunatic here. Finishing trading, we head down spiraling stairs, defeating more spiders. And indeed, by a campfire and a doorway, we find a crazed hermit. Giving him the potion, he says,
"A potion for you." "This is perfect. My mistress will now accept me. Her blood and mine will soon sing as one."
We ask, so your queen sings to you?
"My queen sings to me. Her music echoes from beyond."
Well, we've heard enough. It's then we head inside the caverns of Aranay, hopefully with a clear path, as Leah mentioned, to the Highlands. Entering the cavern, the air hangs thick with a green mucousy glow, and spiders come to rush forth once more. Their larger kin, toxic lurkers, amble in through the shadows, spewing out spider webs to hold us in place, and singing their own disgusting song that we hope wasn't what was driving the hermits so crazy. It's not long before we're ambushed again by waves of spiders that try and drag us into their unholy webbing, led by one Sin Eater, a golden spider. A golden spider, unsurprisingly enchanted with poison. Once the spider has been contended with, we find a powerful mace on it called Wrathful Titan, and we take time to upgrade our armor and shield as well. It should be noted that there is a cursed hatchery event where if you can kill 100 enemies before the timer runs out, you will be rewarded with a boon that lays in the chest.
My faith is rewarded.
It's not long after, to the northeast, we find some stairs and it looks to be a structure. And what's this? The crazed hermit again? Who says,
My mistress has accepted me. Come close and feel her loving embrace.
Rest easy, madman. You served your mistress.
He explodes in a pile of sticky venom and ichor. We cannot help but feel for him if it wasn't for all the spiders that we had to contend with, thanks to his mistress. And it's not long before we come to the entrance of the chamber of Queen Aranea, no doubt responsible for the crazed hermit state. And all of these spiders, the room is littered with spider eggs. In the middle lies a web, mist pours forth, and a huge burrow lies on the west side. Disturbed hatchlings burst out of their pods to meet us. And we see a pool of glowing poison, perhaps? It's then we spy a woman bound in the webs who begs,
"Please, help me. It's horrible. She sucks the innards from her victims. Oh, no, it's too late. I hear her. The Spider Queen is coming."
Spider Queen?
The giant Spider Queen bursts forth, attacking us from the back and spewing vile venom. It's then that our fight begins. During the darkening of Tristram, it said Aranea was enslaved or created by the Archbishop Lazarus, and that Leoric himself, wary of the people of Tristram threatening his own manor, ordered the nearby caves to be sealed. To this end, Lazarus spent weeks working on a group of spiders. Aranea, of course, was the largest of creatures, and she led the other spiders into the caves, and after, no one who entered the caves was said to ever return. During the fight, Aranea will leave the area to hide when she loses 25% or 50% of health, summoning her minions, her 5 brood daughters, the fighters, returning only when they're killed, and the queen will attack us either by biting or pouring poison. The latter is a channeled attack, and she can even summon plagued pools at will. Unlike common toxic lurkers, she may create more than one pool of venom at a time. After the conclusion of the fight, Aranea will drop a few items. There were some yellow ones, but nothing really to speak of, and then we head back to the poor woman. Unfortunately, we can't seem to free her from the web, and then move to the pool of venom. Harvesting some, we pour it on the web that binds her, and she's soon released.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we please leave this horrible place?
Carinya, looking worse for wear, trudges off outside of the cabin, and we follow behind, meeting her outside at the Highlands Crossing and ask her of her ordeal, and she says,
"It was terrible being stuck in there like that. Thank the gods you came along. What are you doing out here?"
I seek a man taken by the Coven.
"The Coven? I saw them dragging someone into Leoric's manor house. Perhaps it was the man you seek. You might have a small bit of trouble reaching there, though. I'm not proud of this, but I stole the staff of a powerful Khazra shaman. The Khazra went mad and chased me to the caves. You can find the staff in my cart in the Highlands. If you take it to the Khazra barricade, perhaps they will let you pass."
We cannot believe that this woman would ask us to put our faith in Khazra, goatmen, to allow us to pass unmolested, but still, we head off in search of her staff. Heading northwest to the Highland Crossing, we come across a bridge that leads to Leoric's manor that is being ripped down, and are then assaulted by a butterfly-like creature, the wither moth. We had read something about them before, and we recall.
The wither moth is a curious phenomenon. It is tremendously large for an insect, and somehow its size allows it to expel a charging force when attacked. For this reason, few have survived to study it in great detail, including many notable academics. In fact, please do not inquire further upon this subject.
Standing on the broken bridge was a goatman shaman who runs at the side of us and then beckons to his fellow Moon Clan goatmen. It seems that, perhaps empty-handed, they don't take too kindly to our trespassing into the southern highlands. It's then, unbelievably, on one of their corpses, we find a tome regarding the crusade.
In the eastern kingdom of Khezistan, I heard rumors of Zakarum warriors called crusaders. While the natives were most reticent, I was able to deduce that this order was founded 200 years ago, just as Rakis took his army of paladins west. But these crusaders went east on a very different mission.
A different mission indeed. Whatever fate lies in store for us, it has led us here. After contending with the errant Moon Clan warriors, we then come across the barricade and a none too friendly shaman, seeing as we have no staff. We do not speak Khazra, but are pretty sure what he said was not exactly welcoming. It's then we head west, and just as promised, Corinya's lost wagon is lying there with the staff on top of it. The Khazra, though, don't seem too keen on an outsider getting their hands on the staff once more. Post working on our public relations, we head back to the lost wagon. Picking up the staff, however, Khazra burst from the underbrush, lying in wait for those who would steal their staff by their elder shaman, the super unique and doppelganger producing Nalgaban the Foul. With our assailants dead and staff in hand, we head back to the barricade.
Staff is ours on passage. Khazra, Zarkaz!
It seems massacring most of their brethren seems to have blown up in our face, or perhaps theirs. There's only one left of the Moon Clan that steps in our path, the poor shaman. But the Moon Clan is not fully defenseless, and especially not going down without a fight, as impalers jump out of the underbrush, spears in hand, and their warriors rush to meet us. But again, even with a savage beast on their side, their might is not enough to stop us. It's not long before we reach the steps of Leoric's manor in the Northern Highlands. It's there we find a journal of a member of the Coven who appear to be in league with the Moon Clan.
Mistress, it is my pleasure to report that I have broken the prisoners from Wertham. Words have flowed from their mouths like blood from a wound. Our summoners can retrieve the weapon at your command, and the enemy shall be none the wiser.
Then we see the very man shielded by the Moon Clan.
To me, you beasts! Let none touch me!
But what could the Coven or even Belial offer the Moon Clan, we wonder? Or how did they find themselves in league with either? Just beyond Leoric's hunting grounds, we find to the west his manor. We break the lock and head inside. More poor villagers' corpses can be found on the ground. It's not long before we find the source. The Coven have taken up residence inside the manor. We check on the villagers, but the bastards may have led them into a trap, or worse. And then we head inside Leoric's manor. Heading up the Great Hall, we're immediately set upon by dark berserkers in league with the Coven, who seem to be a bit more than careless where they swing their maces. Heading up the winding stairs of the dilapidated manor, we find on one of the Coven's corpses new orders from Magda herself.
There is a new piece to the game. A girl named Leah. My spies tell me she is the child of the witch Adria, who is hiding in the deserts of Chaldeum. Bring this news to the Master at once.
After hacking our way through scores of Coven, we find the Grand Hall to the north, hearing a conversation between Magda and her acolytes.
No mortal could slaughter our brethren with such ease.
Then die well. Lord Belial will reward your sacrifice.
We then kick the doors open.
He is here.
More cultists.
Delay him while I prepare his demise in the depths below.
Lord Belial, the Lord of Lies, reward a sacrifice? Well, they don't call them unwitting pawns for nothing. The Coven send their scattering beasts after us in a drove as their leader disappears. Their sacrifice amply rewarded, we head down the blood-caked stairs, finding a final dead villager, and beyond the doors, a promised demise by Magda in the depths below. In the last episode, we trailed the Coven who have abducted this stranger. We know he is of the high heavens. However, the Coven, now holed up in Leoric's manor, try and block our path. It's only then that we find a fallen townsman who tells us where Magda has taken the stranger, saying,
"They did horrible things to us."
Did you see a man in rags?
Yes, the man with the golden eyes. I saw Magda take him into Leoric's old torture chambers below us.
You have done your duty, friend. I will deal with Magda.
We make a solemn promise to ourselves that the townsman's sacrifice will be avenged as we head outside of the manor into the rain. We see that although the manor itself is dilapidated, the hills, scenery, and architecture must have been a sight to behold, the height of Leoric's power. Heading down some steps, we then begin our search, following the bodies to the promised torture chamber. Knights line the wall, ever guarding Leoric's interests in death, as they did in life. Entering the halls, we're aghast to see a basket of sacrificial heads. The sanctity of this place has truly been fouled. Although caked in blood and cages, the place could be mistaken for a furnace, and out of the furnace pops inferno zombies, re-risen tortured victims, a final sacrilege squeezed out of their torture-ridden bodies. And it's not long before we encounter the Coven.
Bring him to me that I may rend the flesh from his bones.
A gaggle of Coven and the hellion beast they spawn come to confront us, led by a super unique Grand Inquisitor that's known as the Master of Pain, but he still has a lesson to learn. It's on the second level of the torture chamber. As we cut a swath through the Coven, do we find a macabre sight indeed. Interrupting their prayers and rituals, we come closer to one of their torture devices that chews through a poor victim with rolling spikes, and a guillotine that has more heads than we care to count. Deeper in the torture chamber lies a barricaded pit of blood and bodies that are re-risen and born of fire. Now without furnaces or bound, they crawl out, seeking fresh victims of their ever-growing army of the undead. Contending with the ambling mob that seems never-ending, we awaken a true horror of the pit. A shambling behemoth super unique. A messy mound of flesh with thorns, teeth, and gaping scars comprising its grotesque visage. Once fallen, we see on its body some legendary braces and a journal. The braces themselves boast a boon for lightning damage and our blessed hammer skills, and are far superior to our current braces. Equipping them, we then read the prisoner's journal.
13th day of Lunasad, 1263, Yano Kyrgyzstani. The jailers burned runes into my flesh.
They say all the torture and dark magic will turn us into demonic slaves for King Leoric. What foolish lies. 17th day of Lunarsad. Oh, pain is terrible. I can't think. I'm so hungry. 20th day of Lunarsad. Master.
What a poor, wretched soul indeed. We wonder if he was transformed into one of the creatures, such as the behemoth we just faced. Dark magic indeed the Coven does possess, and so too their masters, Magda, and the Lord of Lies, Belial, has imparted them, and good riddance to the Skeleton King. It's then in the far corner we spy an Iron Maiden, and it has somebody alive in it. Opening it reveals.
God bless you! I was certain I was gonna die in there. I heard rumors of vast treasure to be found down here. A damn fool that I am, I believed them. Don't know why I thought it might be inside an Iron Maiden. All I could think of while I was trapped in that horrible darkness was that no one would ever know what had happened to me.
With the man freed and the event ended, we head back up the stairs and through a door to the Highlands Passage. Stepping into the rain-soaked courtyard, on a bridge awaits us two dark berserkers. Curiously, on one of their corpses, we find another Crusader's journal.
My studies indicate that a high-level cleric of the Zakarum named Akan began to sense the corruption that was eating away at the heart of his faith. He knew this corruption would eventually destroy his beloved church, and that he must take action. After much prayer, Akan hit upon the idea of an order of crusaders.
Contending with the Coven, now fully in league with the Moon Clan, we dispose of more of their kin before heading inside the Cursed Hold. Once inside the gloomy hold, we're confronted with, what's this? The headless ghost of Queen Asilla.
I am Asilla, once queen to our beloved Leoric. My servants and I were consumed by his madness. Now I give you my blessing, champion, to release my people from their eternal torment.
The Queen, ever a dignitary, beseeches us to release her imprisoned people that are still being held in their jail, in death as they were in life.
Freedom. At long last. Freedom.
Once all 6 of the poor souls have been freed, in a cross in the middle of the jail, we're confronted by the jailer himself, the Warden.
Am I alone here? Must I do this myself? So be it. Face me, and repent your crimes.
The Warden, a giant mace-wielding skeleton. We grow in size using our Akarat skill ability to match his strength and fell him. Removing the tarnish from the prison once more. In his corpse, we find the Crusader shield, Valorous Wall, which increases our wrath regeneration ability substantially. Fighting our way out of the jail, we're rushed by an onslaught of savage fiends, and then happen upon Queen Asilla's death, replayed, no doubt due to the dark energies that bind her here.
My lord, the prisoner is ready, as you requested.
Thank you, Lazarus. Your loyalty is invaluable in the midst of all these traitors. And you, my dear, my own wife and queen, conspiring against our kingdom.
My love, I swear, I have never betrayed you.
Lies. Until the very end.
After the grisly scene plays out, we see in the corner the diary of the betrayer, Lazarus himself.
The time of my lord's true awakening is at hand. That fool Leoric was only able to resist him because he did not yet possess his full power. With the Queen dispatched as a traitor, I may now devote myself fully to prepare.
Lazarus, of course, speaks of the poor possession of young Ulbricht by his master, Diablo, the Lord of Terror. It's only after fighting through the 4th level of the Halls of Agony do we find the Chamber of Suffering.
Leah must be back in Tristram, crying over the old man's corpse. She'll soon have another one to cry over. Yours. Meet the butcher.
Fresh meat. Meat good.
It's then the huge, super unique boss, the Butcher, returns, a cacophony of flesh, stitches, and raw violence. The return of the Butcher within the world was a deliberate action by Magda and the Coven through the use of occultists to sacrifice flesh and blood of living beings, was all to resurrect this beast and to hinder our path.
I hunger, need meat.
The Butcher can be quite formidable due to his smash, grappling hook attacks, frenzied charge, and grating underfoot is set ablaze randomly during the fight. The Butcher, however, succumbs to his injuries, and we garner off his corpse the legendary shield Denial, which boasts a huge boon to our sweep attack, and looks like it's been ripped straight off one of the Iron Maidens in the Halls of Agony. It's then we exit through a northern door into the cells of the condemned and see a bloody path trailing down some descending stairs. Symbols are etched in blood, no doubt of the Coven and their dark blood magic used to bind the angel that is now in their care. At the bottom of the stairs, we find the cultists performing a dark ritual again, as they did to Cormac. The stranger doesn't have much time. Descending down the stairs, we fling our holy shield at their fire-flinging mages. The other cultists still fervently attempt to finish whatever dark ritual that they're performing, but the strength of a crusader proves too great. The stranger, unbound from the spell, falls limply to the floor, and we realize he's gravely injured, and he says,
I am dying.
Angel, take up your sword!
My sword. I remember now. I was an archangel of the high heavens. I was the embodiment of justice. I am Tyrael.
We knew that the stranger was somehow connected to angels or an angel themselves, but Tyrael, the Archangel of Justice. What a boon for the light this is that he is now free, but this spawns so many questions. Where are his brethren or his holy wings? Why has he chosen to walk the earth as a man? More pressing, though, is what is to be done about the lesser evil Belial behind all of our recent misfortunes.
You have restored my mind, friend. And now I remember the warning I came to deliver. Belial and Asmodan, the last lords of hell, are unleashing a tide of darkness that will drown this world. Already, Belial's shadow has fallen upon Caldeum.
Then I will go to Caldeum and introduce myself to Belial.
We must move quickly. Let us return to Tristram and make ready.
We have many more questions. We realize we must heed Tyrael's advice and leave this unholy place. There we meet him with Leah, as he explains.
Time grows short, my friends. Even now, Belial's influence is spreading through Chaldea.
But how will we find him?
We won't have to. Magda and her coven will lead us straight to him.
I'm not going anywhere until Uncle Deckard's been laid to rest.
The crusade goes on, but we must honor our dead.
I have called for a caravan to guide us to the east. Speak to the caravan master when you are ready to go. We will see to Cain as we depart.
Feel for Leah and her lost uncle. He was a great loss for the light, thanks to Belial and his brothers. Tyrael, sensing our next question, expounds.
Who are Belial and Azmodan?
Belial is the Lord of Lies. He desires power before all other things, and his thousand schemes are designed toward this end. His brother, Azmodan, reigns over the other half of Hell as the Lord of Sin. I sense his influence in this world, but I do not yet know where he will strike.
Belial may lead us to him.
They are more rivals than allies in these days, but I pray that you are right.
They say that the evils cannot help but wage war against each other, and that victory is short-lived between them. The fact they're working in unison are dark tidings indeed. With that, we do as Tyrael instructs and see the caravan leader to head to Chaldea on the hunt for the Lord of Lies.
My friend, shall we depart to Chaldea?
It was all just stories. My uncle saw what he wanted to see.
Deckard sacrificed much to protect this world. But his work is not over.
What would you know about sacrifice?
Tyrael, the ancient law of the high heavens strictly forbids us from interfering with the mortal world. Yet you have done so, brazenly.
All I am guilty of, Imperius, is bringing justice, while you hide, cowering behind your throne.
Silence! You will now answer for your transgressions.
You cannot judge me. I am justice itself. We were meant for more than this. To protect the innocent. But if our precious laws bind you all to inaction, then I will no longer stand as your brother.
You chose to be one of us.
Sacrilege.
Thus, I fell, willingly. Because humanity is the only hope for this world.
I never believed all your crazy tales would work. You never